What? All right. Chapter 8. None of this messing around business. You got that? All right. Chapter 8. They were leaving. They had come back from the mall, and they had picked up some cookies, and she brought 2 of them for Nick, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, that is a clue there. Another happy customer. Chapter 8. I guess Nick had heard us coming because he had his door open and his outside light on before we got there. "Hi," he said. Boy, did he look happy to see us. A big, great big, happy old bear. Mom gave him the bag and said, "Cookies for your sweet tooth." He peered inside and said, "Caroline, thank you." I swear, he couldn't have sounded more grateful if she'd given him a Porsche or a Ferrari. In my opinion, he overdid it a bit. "Marcus thought we should bring them up to you tonight," Mom said, and Nick smiled at me. "Thanks, Marcus." "These are great. Come on in, both of you. Sit down. Marcus, try the wicker chair. It's pretty good. Caroline, you sit here." When had this Caroline business started? I thought she was supposed to be Mrs. Mullen to him. But I guess when you're poring over a jigsaw puzzle night after night, it's pretty hard to say, "Hey, Mrs. Mullen, I've found this piece of sky." Or, "Yes, I will have a cup of coffee, Mrs. Mullen. And I'll take a butterscotch cookie if you happen to have one. They're my favorites." Caroline would be more natural. The wicker chair creaked, but he was right. It was comfortable. Nick made us hot chocolate. He had one Santa mug, which he gave me. Mom said, "I'm getting fat and sassy, and it isn't even Christmas yet." "You're not fat," Nick said. "You'll never be fat." That sounded like a pretty familiar remark for him to make to my mother. It was the kind of smirky, just for laughs thing Robbie would say. But Nick wasn't being smirky. This was real, like the time I'd heard him tell her she was a beautiful woman. I stared around the apartment. There was the bird picture I'd seen yesterday and the other photographs of birds in flight, big flocks of them taking off into a sunset sky. There was one of a nest with babies in it. They had feathers that stuck up on top of their heads the way Angelica Trotter's school hair did. Mom's picture was nowhere in sight. "I guess you like birds, Nick," I said. "You must like taking pictures, period." I didn't add, for instance, "How about the one of my mom?" But I tried to put a lot of extra meaning into what I did say. Nick smiled. "I do. I teach photography as well as phys ed, you know." "You didn't know that, Marcus?" Mom took a sip of her hot chocolate. "No." Obviously, she did. "Photography's pretty neat," Nick said. "I have an extra camera, brand new. I bought it for my son, but..." He stopped. "You could borrow it if you like, Marcus. I'd be happy to give you some pointers." What was he trying for now? A replacement son? "No way!" I said. "Marcus!" Mom sat straight. "I just meant that I don't want to borrow a camera, that's all," I began. "I've got so many things going on right now." "It's all right, Caroline," Nick said. "Marcus knows what he wants and what he doesn't want." There he goes again, I thought, taking my side. Nick had broken the cookies into quarters. Quarters meaning? Four pieces. Thank you for the math in that one. He offered the plate to me, and I took a piece and said, "Thanks, Nick," so I'd come over a little more polite, and Mom would be pleased. She and Nick were talking comfortably together, like friends who'd known each other for a long time. Good friends. After a while, Mom stretched and yawned. "All I need now is a hot bath and early to bed. Tomorrow's going to be hectic." She stood up. "Ready, Marcus?" I was ready, all right. Nick walked us to the door. "Caroline," he said, "why don't you go on? I want to speak to Marcus for a few minutes." Uh-oh. I had a feeling this was going to be some kind of a showdown. Maybe a "let's try to get along for your mother's sake" lecture. Is it a Christmas secret? Mom had that hopeful look. The air is filled with secrets at this time of year. She gave me a smile. I'll see you later down at the house then, Marky. The shadow on the window slid across my mind, even though I knew it was only the tree. We'd better go together, Mama. I'm pretty pooped too. Can whatever it is wait till tomorrow, Nick? Sure. And Marcus, don't wait for an invitation. Come up any time. He called good night from the top of the stairs and stood there letting his apartment light shine down on us. Next door I could see Miss Coriander in her kitchen stirring something in a blue bowl. Their kitchen is like a storage room piled high with cardboard containers overflowing with the dried pods and buttons and pine cones and wire that she and Miss Sarah used to make the Christmas wreaths they give away. The Raggedy Anns Miss Sarah is making for their church sale sat in a row on the table. I could see the stacks of newspaper they keep for recycling. It looked nice, safe, and messy, and normal. Mom had taken her keys from her purse and waved back to Nick as she opened our door. I stepped in front of her and turned on the hall light. Nobody. Of course not. I had to quit this imagining. When I plugged in the tree, the red, blue, and yellow bulbs twinkled and shone, tumbling their colors across the ceiling, cheerful, Christmassy, nothing to worry about. I went around then, lighting up the whole house. Mom met me in the hallway. Hun, I'm going straight in for my bath and bed. Do you want to watch TV for a while or read? I nodded. I'll try not to wake you in the morning when I leave. I should be home shortly after 6, she hesitated. And I thought she was going to hassle me about being rude to Nick. But instead, she put her hands on my shoulders and said, I love you very much, Marcus. Nothing can change that. Nobody can change that. She was looking so deeply into my eyes that I thought she might be able to see through them into my brain and see the thoughts scuttling nervously around. I truly don't know if Nick and I care for each other in any serious way. But I promise you something. I will tell you if it gets to be like that. You'll be the first to know. Okay? I tried to smile. Okay. Good night, Marky. Sleep tight, Mom. I went back in the living room and slumped on the couch. She didn't know if she and Nick cared for each other seriously. It could all fall through. I would start thinking negatively that it would. I imagined Nick giving up the apartment, disappearing. A nice young couple with 2 kids would rent the place and they'd have me babysit and the kids would call me Unky Marky. 2 kids might be too much. Okay, 1 kid. I wondered if Angelica Trotter had babysitting jobs. A lot of girls did. Mom was still in the kitchen, so I went through the kitchen to use the little half bath off the laundry room. On the floor, right in front of the toilet, were 2 clumps of bright, fresh green. My heart began pumping up a storm as I leaned over and touched one with the tip of my finger. It fell apart into a scatter of grass. What the? The other clump was still intact. I sat back on my heels looking at it. Nick had cut our front lawn yesterday. Somebody had walked across it since then, and grass had stuck on the soles of his shoes. Someone had come in here and used the toilet, and the grass had fallen off. Who? Not Robbie or I today, not Mom. She always drives straight into the garage, and tonight we hadn't gone near the lawn. Nick again? When? I'd watched him yesterday as he put everything away. He hadn't come in the house. Today, then? But why would he come down here when he had his own bathroom upstairs? It didn't make sense. And Miss Sarah hadn't seen him. Hard for him to slip past her. Carefully, I picked up the wad of grass and cradled it in my hand. No clues here. No wonderful, distinctive rubber sole marks. Nothing. It cracked in two as I examined it. I dropped half into the toilet and flushed it away. The other piece was thicker, rubbery. I set it whole on the windowsill. Marcus! That was Mom calling. Coming! Mom was standing in the living room. She wore her dark blue robe and her hair hung in little wet strands on her shoulders. Have you seen my clock, Marcus? She asked. Your clock? You mean your little bedside clock? Yes. It's the darndest thing. I can't find it anywhere. I know it's there this morning. The alarm clock woke me up. Did you borrow it? I shook my head, feeling cold and anxious. Too many weird things going on. I didn't think you did. Well, how did it vanish like this? Nick took it? I hadn't meant it to be a question, but that's how it came out. Mom's face changed. I wanted to look away because I could see she was getting angry. I'm really tired of all this talk about Nick, Marcus. Now you're being ridiculous. No, I'm not. He did take it, and he is coming in our house when he knows we're not here. Yesterday or today, he used the toilet in our laundry room. Why are you laughing?
It's just a funny statement.
Why?
Because going to the bathroom in the laundry room, the person who rents an apartment.
Okay. Mom sighed and exasperated away. So what if he did? Maybe he didn't want to bother going upstairs when he's in the garage or out in the yard. Is that such a big deal? How to explain this feeling? He came in secretly. Even Miss Sarah didn't see him. You mean you asked her? Honestly, Marcus, well, it obviously is a big deal to you, so let's just find out what Nick has to say. That would seem to be the easiest thing. We'll simply ask him if he took the clock, used the toilet, what else was it he supposed to have taken? Bread and peanut butter, I said weakly. Oh, yes, and the meatloaf. Didn't you mention meatloaf? She walked across to the phone and dialed. I think maybe I'm wrong, I said desperately. Why don't we just forget it tonight? We can... Nick? This is Caroline. I wonder if you could come down here for a few minutes. Marcus and I would like to talk to you about something. There was a pause before she said, Thanks, Nick, and hung up the phone. I guess Nick was coming.